Today we're going to do our third edition of bacon, and this time it's going to be a dry cured version. So thanks for joining here at BuQeye Barbecue.
Alright, so we're going to get our pork belly ready. Just going to cut into the package here. I'm going to try to keep one of these hands clean, at least for a brief second. So this is a Porter Road pork belly, and it is just over 3 pounds. As usual, it looks great. I love the meat from Porter Road. They are smaller pork bellies. They don't usually have a whole one. They're usually anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds, I've found. So the very first thing we're going to do is I have a food saver bag here. So just a standard food saver bag. If you don't have a food saver bag, it's not a big deal. You can certainly just use a large Ziploc bag. I happen to have a food saver, so that's what we're going to use. And we're just going to put that in there and then move our dirty cutting board out of the way. There we go. And from there, we're going to mix our seasonings up. What we would call our dry brine. So I've just got a little container in here that I can end up shaking up to mix it. First thing we're going to talk about and add is our prog powder number 1, our curing salt. It's a pink curing salt. Again, as I said in the past, it is not the pink Himalayan salt. This is a special salt for curing meats. In this particular method of doing bacon, it's the first time I've ever done a completely dry brine on camera. It is important to measure out your pink curing salt, or prog powder number 1 as it's also called, based on the amount of meat that you're trying to cure. So in this case, I've measured it out. It works out to about a teaspoon per 5 pounds of meat. So I've got just over 3 pounds, so we have just shy of 3/4 of a teaspoon of prog powder number 1. So we're going to dump that first, get that out of our way. The next are pretty basic ingredients. We have regular kosher salt, and I have 3 tablespoons of that. We have 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, light or dark, doesn't really matter. I think we had light. I've got a tablespoon of black pepper. Excuse me, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, and that's really to taste, so it's not a big deal. The other thing I have is some Meat Church Honey Hog barbecue rub. I really like this. I think it's going to go great with the bacon. You can use whatever barbecue rub that you would like in this instance. So we're going to add that. And then we are going to just shake it up. Just to get it mixed up. And all incorporated. So there we go. We're going to bring our pork belly back now, and we're just going to dump this in. I'm going to go about half on each side. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'll turn it over and do the other half. And just get the last of it in there. So there we go. I'm going to rub this in on the outside of the bag as best I can. The reason that perfection is not a big deal here is because over the course of the 5 to 7 days that we are curing this, we're going to turn this bag over a time or 2 in the fridge. Sorry about all the extra noise. And a lot of moisture is going to end up coming out of this pork belly, and it's going to end up surrounding it. So getting it perfect right now just isn't that big of a deal. I never worry too much about it. Just try to do the best you can. You can get your hands in there and get them dirty. I decided not to do that this time. And then the next thing we're going to do is grab our food saver, which I have all ready to go here. We'll get it plugged in. Open it up. And then just get our bag all lined up there in order to vacuum seal it. So we'll just turn this on and let it go. It's sealing now, and now it's done. So we'll open it up, and we have our vacuum seal brining pork belly. So this is going to go into the fridge. We'll turn it over every day or two and come back in. It'll be at least 5 days, probably 6 days is what it'll end up being. So we're gonna let this cure, so we'll see you in a week. Okay, so it's been 6 days. Our pork belly has been in the cure and been turned over a few times throughout the week. And I hope you can see in the video the liquid that has come out of this. Totally expected, and why it wasn't a terribly big deal to be perfect on getting the cure around every side. So we're gonna just cut into this bag, and the first thing I'm gonna do is take the pork belly over to the sink and rinse it off completely. Want to get all of that cure off of there. So I will pause this video and go over to the sink and get this rinsed off, and then we'll come back and talk about our cook. Okay, so we have our pork belly rinsed off, and I'm just going to pat it dry with a paper towel. Now, one thing that I would recommend you do, especially if you have never turned pork belly into bacon before, is this is a great time to cut off a little piece off of an end and fry it up and make sure that it tastes good. And what I mean by tastes good is it's possible to over salt your bacon in your cure. And if you do, you can actually undo that by soaking it in cool, clean water for a few hours. Now, I'm really confident in this seasoning blend I put together. It's the type, or at least amounts I've used in the past, so I'm not going to do that today, but it's really easy to do. Just cut off a small slice and throw it in a frying pan, cook it up, and then taste it. You're not going to get that smoky bacon flavor that you think of when you think of bacon, but it still should taste good and not be too salty. And again, if it is, you can soak it in cool, clean water for 2, 4, 6 hours even, and that should relieve the salt content a little bit and make it taste much better. So again, I'm not going to do that today, but definitely recommend doing it. We're going to use a bacon hanger to hang in our pellet smoker. We're going to use the PG 500 today. I've already got it set on 170 degrees. Whoops. I always want to be careful so I don't impale my hand here. Here we go. And we're just going to hang this in the cooker, and we're going to take it up to, I like to go between 145 and 150 internal. Even a couple of degrees higher than 150 is fine. So if you've got a thicker and thinner piece, kind of like we do on this piece of pork belly, taking it up to a little over 150 in the thinner part, a little less than 150 in the thicker part is totally fine. So we will see you out there at the cooker. Okay, so the PG 500 is up to temperature. We are going to get this bacon hung, and what I'm doing is, and I've done this a few different times on a few different things, is I just leave the top rack in, take the bottom rack out, and then we'll just put perfect. So that will hang there. I'm guessing this will be 6 to 8 hours. We'll see. I do have a thermometer that I'm going to use. I've got my ThermoWorks signals. So we're just going to get that probe through there. And we're just going to put it right in the side, kind of in the thicker part, but not all the way at the top. Kind of get it near the center there. And actually, go a little higher. And that'll help us monitor our internal temperatures. So we're going to let that go. We'll bring you back a time or two, but there won't be a lot to see. So we'll bring you back. Okay, we've been on right at an hour. The pork belly, soon to be bacon temperature internal is at 106 degrees. And the cooker's been running between 170 and 190 pretty much the whole time. So we're just going to take a quick look. All right, color's looking great. I'm not going to move it, it's just hanging there so nicely. So I don't know if you can see that on the video, but the color is looking really good. And so we're just going to close this up and let it go. In my experience, when smoking pork belly to make bacon like this, it will get from its 32 to 35 degrees up to around 100 degrees pretty quickly. And then it takes a little while to get up to that 145 to 150 range. So even though it's only been an hour, I suspect we have several more hours to go. So we'll bring you back. Okay, we are at 147 and a half in that thicker part where I put the probe. I literally have done nothing except open this door once to show the video. So there's our bacon, looking really, really good. So I'm gonna get this inside, get the camera set up, and let it cool for a bit, and then we'll be back and slice into it and talk about our next and final steps. So we'll bring you back. Okay, so here is our finished bacon. I have let it cool at least a half an hour. Best thing to do is now to put this in the refrigerator, even in a food saver bag. If you have a food saver, a Ziploc bag is fine, but just kind of let that smoke settle and really penetrate the meat. I am going to go ahead and cut this piece in half just to show the inside, but then I'm going to put it in the freezer and we'll call this video done. So hopefully I can get this in the camera view. It really turned out nice. I love the way this looks. I love the color. So we're just gonna cut this right down the center. And by the way, you do want to cut your slices so they are against the grain, and your bacon will be smoother to eat that way. Okay, let's see what this looks like. So I hope you can see that really nice pink hue. You really only get that from using that little bit of curing salt, that Prague powder #1 that we used. You certainly don't have to use that. The flavor will still be there, but you just won't get this pink hue that this bacon has. So we did cook this to a safe temperature to eat. You know, pork in roast form is good to eat at 145. You could technically eat this. I wouldn't, but what we'll end up doing is slicing these up in some, however you like your bacon. You can certainly slice it however thick you want. And the best way to do that is to actually put it in the freezer for 20 to 30 minutes and then pull it out, and it will slice a lot better, especially if you're using a knife. If you're using a big slicer, it's not as important, but if you're using a knife, that really helps. So anyway, I hope that you got something out of this, what's probably my final bacon video. I've done bacon, I believe, 3 different ways for the channel. And this is the dry cure way. So best of luck. Making your own bacon is so worth it. I hope that you have success as well and can fry up some good home done bacon. So thanks again for joining me here at BuQeye Barbecue. I really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind taking a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, it really would help me out and I would greatly appreciate it. So we will see you next time at BuQeye Barbecue.